Okay, staff reports. Item 6, financial performance report for the 9 months to the 31st of March. Do we have staff? Diane, are you joining us for this one? Thank you very much. And are there any introductory comments that you'd like to make to this report?
Yes, good morning, and yes, there are, thank you. I'm pleased to advise that the work we alluded to when this report was written about general managers working with their teams to cut back all non-essential expenditure has actually been quite successful to date. The April report is much improved. It is showing a surplus now of 2.4 as opposed to the deficit that was there. But I would caution, while we have a reasonable degree of confidence in that, there are sort of 8 weeks of the year remaining, and the bad news does tend to arrive in the last 8 weeks. We hope we've provided for that, but I guess I can't be absolutely certain.
Thank you very much. So this report's coming straight to Council because we don't have a Finance and Performance Committee meeting this month because of the work that we're doing on the LTP. So are there any questions for Di on this report? Yanni?
I was just trying to get some understanding. I think the previous finance report had reference to, I thought it was Botanic Gardens staff or operational staff being charged to Hagley Oval. In this report, we've got, I think it's been pointed out, the reverse. We've got Botanic Gardens staff charging time to Hagley Park, and we're now being told that there's a halt on non-urgent spending and a review underway. Can you just give us some understanding of what's going on there?
In short, no, no. I mean, I'm sure I can go away and find out, but I don't have it right at my fingertips. I'm sorry.
Right, okay.
So this
I
relates...
think we did previous at the Finance Committee when we got the other information around Hagley Oval, ask for some additional information and clarification.
The information that I have is the first sentence is due to Parks restructuring. Some staff were charging to the wrong code, so Parks have corrected that.
Right.
And the second sentence is a different issue to charging. It's because the Parks area is forecasting the overspend at the end of the year, so we're reviewing the budget to try and pull back the budget into line, as with other work that's been done.
Right, and can you just give us a sense of, in terms of the capital around the parks and the operational, like we've got a number of new sports fields that have been, or existing sports fields been upgraded, which I think are having unfavourable budgets. Is that, we've also had through the LTP submissions around concern that we're upgrading these fields but we don't have enough money for operationally to maintain them. Is there any comment just at a high level around the sports fields upgrades and how those budgets are tracking versus the OPEX that we're putting in place?
Sorry?
We can get you some information on that. I think some of the comments relate to when parks are transferred to us, so some of the public realm and things like that, particularly, for instance, when Otago transfers some, we need to make sure that we incorporate OPEX into that. Okay. So there's been a large number of parks added over time.
So if we can get some information on that and circulate that around everybody, that would be great. Thank you very much.
And are you, sorry, just in relation to that then, the final question, are you expecting, like, when things like the former TTV site gets transferred over, that we'd get a report to council just, you know, probably showing us what's there, what the ongoing OPEX is, or would you see that as just a sort of memo? Or?
Well, I think we can update you on those things, so that, as I recall, Bruce Rendell did send out some information.
Yeah.
And we had indicated in that email that a report will be coming to Finance and Performance shortly on all of those matters. But in terms of the OPEX budgets, we can make sure we had the input from the people like my friend who just walked in, about that in that report.
Okay.
We're aiming, I think, to get that in the June meetings.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Great. Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you. A question here on the special funds, so page 13. It looks at the Capital Endowment Fund forecast to be over-allocated. Position will improve by $90,000 if Christchurch NZ secures the $1.4 million worth of funds. So does that mean that Christchurch NZ has bid for funds that we're currently allocated money anyway to it through the Capital Endowment Fund for one of those projects?
Yes, we always allocate Christchurch, New Zealand funds come partly through the Capital Endowment Fund. We're simply flagging that depending on what the outcome is of the long-term plan, there could be a change.
But the $90,000 there, does that mean that we've allocated $90,000 to something that will then not be needed if Christchurch NZ gets it through LTP instead?
Yes.
So what was that $90,000 for? Do you know?
Well, they don't break it down into tiny amounts. It's sort of a large amount of funding that's provided to Christchurch, New Zealand. So
Yeah.
we don't have visibility through to what it's used for.
But we've got visibility on the Capital Endowment Fund and what we allocate that for.
Yes, but it's their general funding.
It's their general funding
Yes.
by $90,000.
Yes.
Is it not for events, some of their events that we transferred over? We will check that for you. But,
Yeah, it's a very specific amount.
It would have been part of the in terms of the transfer and the establishment of Christchurch NZ. We transferred some of the funding that we had for particular things, and my suspicion is it was for some of the events that were transferred
It's just that the LTP bit is then covering something that we think that we're already covering for them.
Some of it. So the LTP bid is for a number of things,
Yeah.
including
quite
major
specific.
events. Yeah, so we can find out specifically what that's for.
Yeah.
But I think as it was established, some of the things that we transferred over included things like some of the events that we were providing that came out of the Capital Endowment Fund. But I just need to check that.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting alongside for the LTP discussion to find out whether that means that we could reduce the 1.4 by 90,000 and still achieve the same thing, given that we've got the 90,000 here. It would be this will be an interesting piece of information to feed into the LTP deliberation around this particular item, which, given the submissions that we've heard, we will almost certainly be having.
Well, the other question is whether it frees up 90,000 in the
That's
Capital
right.
Endowment.
Indeed, yeah.
Potentially.
All right,
and
thank you.
Another one here. Similar to Yanni's point, where it seems to be things that are cross-budget areas. So on page 20 of our agenda, it looks at the permanent forecast overspend in roads and footpaths is driven by the major cycleways projects. And then on the next page, in transport, the major cycleway program is the main driver for the year-to-date underspend. And having the cycleways project across two different budgets means that it's not particularly clear in this kind of reporting how that is tracking.
Yep.
So if we can do something to make that, I don't know, clearer, you know, how does that work in the budget? You know.
So Sarah, you'll recall in the capital watch list reporting that goes up to the Finance and Performance Committee, we do a whole separate watch list on the major cycle works.
Yeah, it's just that in one area it's overspent, the other area is underspent, but they're in two separate areas rather than in one.
Operating and capex.
That's it.
All right, thank you. And then, any further questions? All right, great. So do I have a mover for this report? Raf, happy to move. I'm happy to second. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you.